Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about The Substance from director Coralie Fargeat, who some of you may know as the director of 2017's Revenge. And this movie continues her themes of misogyny in the modern era, as well as many other things. But more importantly, this movie is probably the most movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Especially in theaters.
Yes.
And we see movies on a regular basis.
Yeah. This movie saw society and went, hold my beer.
Yeah,
hold my
exactly.
Beer. I got this.
The basic premise is you have an aging starlet played by Demi Moore who is given this opportunity to use this black market drug called The Substance, which separates her body into two bodies, her aging self and a much younger version of herself in her prime, played by Margaret Qualley, who some of you may know from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Drive Away Dolls. But the thing is, this drug comes with a catch. You can only be in the body for 7 days, and you have to switch to your old body for another 7 days and go back and forth for essentially all eternity, henceforth, once you start using the drug. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Consequences which we'll get to in the spoiler section.
Yeah.
But needless to say, she does not necessarily heed those rules, so things go awry over the course of this movie in a slow degradation into absolute insanity.
Oh, yeah.
This is a crazy movie. This is an over-the-top movie. This is a gory movie. You might not expect it given its premise, but this movie gets really fucking gory. There's a reason why Jack mentioned society earlier in this review. Because, there's a lot of Brian Usna in this movie. There's a lot of Stuart Gordon in this movie. In fact, the substance itself is a green substance in a vial.
Yeah, much like the reanimator fluid.
Exactly.
You know?
But there's also a lot of Perfect Blue, Black Swan. It's not subtle in the slightest.
Oh no, there is no subtlety in this
There's
movie.
zero subtlety, but it's about a lot of things at once. You have the getting older, not liking your body anymore, not liking the way the world sees you in your aging body, and dealing with that. There's the misogyny angle. She is an aging starlet in Hollywood, and Hollywood is famously not very kind to women when they're no longer pretty.
Or of a certain age, because like the main character is played by Demi Moore,
who's still pretty.
Demi Moore is still incredibly beautiful.
Exactly, which is something even brought up in the movie when there are certain characters that still see that.
Yes, it's really important. Like one of the other themes is like how you see yourself being a major factor.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing overall.
And how your self-image is kind of influenced by things around you, by your work and the people at your work and how they see you, by the way the people on the street react to you when you pass by them or when you're talking to them, and multiple other factors that are expanded because she is a starlet, so she's actually in the limelight, so she gets even more scrutiny than the average person would get.
Yeah.
There's also an element to this movie that's almost about like what happens when you're a parent and you're kind of realizing that your time is over and you're watching your child reap all of the benefits that you once had.
Yeah. And the jealousy over your former self.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And in this case, it's really interesting because it's not really her child. It actually is her, but she's in a younger body that was spawned from her old body. So it's almost like a child. It's almost like a little her.
Yeah.
But it is still her. But an important aspect of it is that even though it's still her, it's her back then. So all of the wisdom she's had over the years through age is lost the moment she enters the young body. She's all of a sudden making stupid, impulsive choices that she probably wouldn't make if she was older.
That is up to be determined because she also makes really poor choices as an adult.
That's true. That's true. Largely in response to her feelings towards her resentment towards her younger self, right? Like, over the course of the movie, the resentment between the two versions of herself, even though, again, remember, they're both still her, it explodes into a crazy finale that, trust me, you're not going to be able to completely predict.
Yeah.
But it does go all the way with its premises.
Goes all the way. I don't know how to say it, but I feel this movie actually has a fourth act.
It does.
That is nothing but, oh, you expect us to stop here? Oh, we're going to keep going. This is a game with extra innings.
Yeah.
You know, where you're just like, oh my God. By the end of it, I'm just going, oh, please. oh, please,
Yeah.
I see where you're going. Please, please, please do it.
3 separate times towards the last act of this movie where the movie could have ended, and it would have been a fine story.
Yeah, it would have been a great story.
But the movie keeps going. And normally when a movie does that, you go like, oh, no, movie, your plot's ended.
Overstaying your welcome.
What do you have to offer now that you've basically said everything you need to say? Well, this movie says, hold my beer. Strap in. We're going to fucking Crazy Town.
Yeah,
and
we're going to the ozone. Buckle up, buckaroos.
And I was grinning ear to ear this entire time.
Oh, me too. I could not stop laughing.
Yep. Just remember, we've referenced movies like Society. We've referenced movies like Reanimator. Like
Black Swan.
Like Black Swan.
Yeah.
We're giving you an idea of how insane this movie goes. Imagine if a movie like Black Swan, instead of being a Darren Aronofsky film, it was a Brian Usna film. That's kind of where this movie goes.
Oh, yeah. Great fable for accepting who you are and where you are in life. The real theme is self-acceptance.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. I don't even know what we can talk about without giving too much of the movie away, except, despite everything that happens, one of the most disgusting things in the movie is fucking Dennis Quaid's mouth.
Yeah, so Dennis Quaid plays her boss. She's basically an aging starlet. She's kind of found this little niche for herself where she does aerobics videos, and she has a regular aerobics show that airs every week. And her boss at the network that airs the aerobics show is played by Dennis Quaid, who is the most over-the-top misogynist boss you could ever imagine. The film knows it and films him like the absolute pig he is. So you get these like disgusting close-ups where he's like eating dinner and talking down to her about what it means to be a woman. Like she doesn't know what it means to be a woman. Eating shrimp in the most disgusting manner possible.
Yeah. Like purposely making his mouth look like an anus.
Now, mind you, that's the way they film him eating shrimp. Now imagine the way the movie's gonna film the body horror in the last act.
Woo!
Exactly. This movie goes wild and it's disgusting and I loved it.
Yes.
Demi Moore is really great in this movie and I'm actually surprised that she's in this movie because I don't associate her with this kind of like graphic horror movie.
No, you would normally think of like a Barbara Crampton or something like that.
But like you can tell that there's something about this movie that was probably personal for her.
Oh, yes.
As an actress who was really in the limelight for a long time. The scrutiny for being not sexual enough.
Yeah.
So she does striptease, and then she's too sexual. So she does G.I. Jane, and now all of a sudden she's not sexy enough again.
Yeah.
And this constant back and forth in the industry, not only with the higher ups that she's trying to work for at these studios, but also just the public at large and the scrutiny that comes with that.
Yeah. Hopefully she will continue to do off-the-wall horror movies because we horror fans, we appreciate our aging starlets.
Yep, absolutely.
Quite a lot.
Absolutely. And I appreciated seeing Margaret Qualley again. I really loved her in Drive-Away Dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Plays a completely different character in this movie.
I've seen her in 3 different movies, and I keep failing to identify her until I see her name.
Because she disappears into those roles, right?
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a very different character than Drive-Away Dolls.
No! Like, I did not even recognize her at all in fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
And then you got her in Drive-Away Dolls where she is like the butch smart mouth lesbian.
Yes.
Completely different, like 180 character.
Yeah. Didn't recognize her again.
And then in this, she's kind of like
young starlet, almost bimbo role.
She kind of like lowers herself around men in order to get ahead. You can see her do it.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's the normal her, and then there's her in front of her bosses where she all of a sudden, like, her voice pitch goes up.
Yeah.
And she starts acting a little bit more childlike around them, you know, in order to like adhere to their gaze. But she's doing it because she knows she's going to get ahead and make a whole lot of money doing it and get all the praise she wants, which contributes to the resentment of the older version of her, who literally starts mocking that high-pitched voice she puts on.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of self-hatred going on.
The performances here are great, and Dennis Quaid is great too as the over-the-top sleazy boss.
One of the other things I really, really, really like is that the gaze that she reacts the most to, she's most reactive to, is really old men.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, those are the gazes she both craves and fears. is.
And I like that she is a very flawed person from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Even when presented with people that actually do appreciate her, it's not the right people, right?
Exactly.
Like, this person's a little weird. Like, they're not the person I want to be oogling me.
Yeah.
I want that hot guy over there to be oogling me, not this weird guy.
Not this weirdo.
You know? So even she's got, like, this shallowness, this, like, inner hatred.
Yeah.
That's always bubbling under the surface even before she starts taking the substance.
Yeah. That's the internalized misogyny.
She's a great example of someone who doesn't necessarily hate other women, but hates herself. Because of the internalized misogyny.
Yeah.
The substance itself, even though it's like this black market drug, it's kind of like a stand-in for the entire beauty industry.
Oh, yeah.
And the way it feeds on people's insecurities.
Yeah, especially the way it's like packaged.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, there's a place for all these things. Beauty products in and of themselves are not the problem, but it's the way the beauty industry preys upon people's insecurities by reinforcing those insecurities before selling you a solution to them.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the substance does to her.
Yes.
We'll obviously get more into the consequences of using this thing and misusing this thing when we get to the spoiler section, but when it actually got to the early portions of those consequences, what I kept thinking about was stuff like, take makeup, right?
Right.
You put makeup on to look and feel beautiful, to, you know, get all your blemishes out or whatever, but makeup has this downside to it that it in and of itself will dry out your skin and make you look worse once the makeup's removed. Yeah. And the substance is very much the same way. It has this really great benefit, but then there's a point in which you have to deal with the consequences after that.
Yeah. And very much the like kind of 7 days on, 7 days off thing is kind of like the recommendation of wearing a lot of makeup, which is like, look, you gotta let your skin heal and regain its elasticity. Otherwise, it's gonna gonna just compound.
If you don't adhere that, some of those like effects on your face are gonna be permanent. Yeah. Because you've overused it, right? Yeah. 100%. The last thing I want to say before we go on to the spoilers is even like its aspects about aging, like that element of the movie. I found that part really relatable, even though it's very specifically talking about women's experience with that. There's like a point where she gets like certain like skin rashes, right? Yeah. I would think about when I would have like an eczema outbreak.
Yes.
And how I started developing those the older I got. And like how I wish I could go back to the time where I didn't have that.
Yeah, like sometimes I freak out just because like when I, my arms freckle a lot if I get a lot of sun. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, I look old, you know, and it's just like, calm down. Like, what's wrong with you, you know?
And so even though this movie is about a rich starlet, who I am obviously not, and even though it is about the woman's experience in a very misogynistic industry, in a very, very misogynistic society, I still found myself relating to Demi Moore as the movie went on.
Oh yeah, totally.
Even though there were points where I went, I probably wouldn't have misused the product the way she did.
No.
But hey, we wouldn't have a movie if she didn't.
Yeah.
And so with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, The Substance is currently available in theaters. I highly recommend checking it out in theaters because seeing this movie with a crowd only enhances the experience. Because once you get to the point where the movie completely, like the shit hits the fan, the audience reactions just add to the movie.
The gasps, giggles, and yells 100%. Are amazing.
We didn't have a lot of people in our theater, but there was enough to where the reactions were palpable. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers so we can finally talk about this insane final act that we've been hinting towards this entire video. The consequences of misusing the drug are actually pretty simple in the beginning. If you go over your allotted days in your younger body, you'll be taking too much fluid from your older self, and your older self will start to wither away quicker.
Yeah. You start to age faster.
And you will age like a lot. Like your finger will all of a sudden look like it's ancient, like it's mummified.
Yeah. Like you're turning into a hag, you know?
And naturally, the younger version of her, the longer this movie goes, she starts taking more and more time away from the older version of her. And the older version of her starts dealing with repercussions of that. Yeah. Her leg starts to shrivel away. Her fingers shrivel away. And the resentment between the two of them explodes, and she decides to terminate the entire project. But then has last second doubts when she's in the middle of killing her younger body while the younger body is asleep. Oh shit, I don't want to do that. You're the only part of me that people love. Yeah. So she decides decides to switch the body and try to save it, but this ends up triggering the combination of the poison and trying to switch the body while the poison's in it, caused them both to wake up.
Yeah.
So you have this finale in which the two of them are trying to kill each other. And you have this explosive fight in their apartment building where they're like slamming each other's faces into fucking like glass mirrors and shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like it's
brutal.
It's intense.
And bloody. The younger version of her ends up killing the older version of her. Now here's the problem with this. While you're in the younger version of yourself, in order to sustain that form, you must take fluid out of your older version every day, inject it into yourself, and it will stabilize your body so it doesn't start to fall apart. And the reason why you do the 7 days on, 7 days off thing, it takes 7 days for that fluid to replenish.
Yeah.
And if you go over that, it'll start taking fluids from other parts of the body until you've shriveled up everything and there's nothing left in the original body. So when she kills her older self, she no longer has any source of stabilizing fluid. So she decides to do the New Year's Eve event that this movie's been building up to, that she's been doing for her job in her new form.
Right.
And while she's there, she starts to literally fall apart. Like her teeth start coming out, her ears starts falling off. Now we have this level of body horror happening. We had the shriveled up husk of the old lady. Now the younger form is experiencing the body horror of the body literally just falling apart. A great metaphor for just getting older, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, can't avoid it.
Now you'd think the movie would end here, right? She tries to like do this performance but can't because she's falling apart, and so that's not gonna work out. The movie keeps going. She realizes that she still has a little bit of the original substance formula in her apartment. So she goes back home while she's falling apart, mind you. So there's less and less of her the more she gets to the apartment. Injects herself with the substance to create another younger version of herself.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't. What is created is a third form for her, which is this monstrous David Cronenberg monstrosity that is a fusion of like 3 different bodies fused into this weird fucking contorted form. You can see Demi Moore's face and you can see Margaret Qualley's face on like its back with like a hand coming out of its back.
Yeah. And
its face is like this fucking mound with eyeballs like on random parts of it.
A fucked up jaw like the Elephant Man.
So she dresses up in the dress in this monstrous form, despite being like a hunchback and being barely able to fucking walk.
Yeah.
She cuts out this portrait of herself. She pastes it to her face with like fucking glue.
Yeah.
Goes to the event and tries to perform the event as this monster to horrified reactions.
Yeah.
But wait, the movie doesn't end there because she just starts spewing blood.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So the very first thing that happens is one of her eyes falls out.
Yeah.
And then it starts vomiting up a tit.
Yeah.
That falls onto the stage.
Because mind you, she has no stabilization formula. So now this form of her starts to fall apart.
Yeah. Part of her like ruptures open and all this blood just goes into the audience.
While people are trying to attack her and hit her and parts of her
monster.
And parts of her are just exploding when they hit her.
Yeah.
So the entire theater of people are just covered in blood like a fucking Gwar concert.
Yeah.
But wait! The movie doesn't stop there because she escapes them trying to kill her inside this concert hall, is running down the street to get to her apartment complex, but trips and explodes all over the pavement.
Yeah, just...
Earlier on in the movie, this movie opened up with an amazing metaphor for everything this movie is about. It showed us the creation of her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And then it showed us that star slowly degrading over time.
Yeah.
Until people were just walking on it and like birds were shitting on it.
Yeah.
From the mound of flesh that's left after she explodes on the sidewalk, one of her faces from her back starts to crawl on its own like a fucking worm, like an amoeba or something. And it crawls towards the star and then hallucinates this like big event of being a star again with all the lights and stuff all over her.
Yeah, while she's looking up to the night sky at the literal stars.
Only to explode again, then get washed away by the street washer.
Yeah. Then dawn comes and the guy with that fucking sidewalk thing just goes over her, cleans it all up. Credits. Yeah.
This is an amazing movie. This is great. If the movie had ended back when she was originally falling apart, it would have been a good movie. It would have been fine. It going this extra mile and reinforcing its point with this insane, over-the-top, gory as shit ending, it's now my favorite movie of the whole fucking year.
Yeah.
And that includes movies like Maxine, which were my previous favorite movies of the year.
Oh my God. This is Criterion Collection all the way.
It is a pure work of art.
Oh, yes.
A pure work of gory, over-the-top, in-your-face art.
Oh, yeah.
It has equal parts the kind of cheesy, gory, over-the-topness of a Brian Usna film, but also, like, the serious grotesqueness of, like, a French extreme film.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not surprising, given that she's a French
director. Yeah. Like, what's one of the few movies done by a French director for an English-speaking audience that I would count as a French extreme film.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. This movie's fucking great. I cannot recommend The Substance enough.
Whew.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, it's a fantastic movie. You should all see it.
And with that said, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Well, you can find me here on YouTube every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. where I stream and we talk about horror, sex, and Transformers.
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, wherever. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way. If you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag #DemiGore. That way I know, that way Jack knows, that way the whole world knows that you watched The Substance. And holy shit, it changed your life. Because it certainly changed mine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.